How do you do, fellow gamers? This is Almighty Goat, and this is 3 magic tricks to teach your deck, Jund Edition. In case you don't know, Jund is red, black, and green, and these are going to be card combos that I taught my Jund deck, and I think you should too. Before we get started, I just want to point out that not all of these magic tricks require that you run all the colors for Jund in them. Some only require red and green, black, green, whatever. The whole point is that they have a place in a Jund deck. We're going to start things off with a little card called Nacatl War-Pride. I'm fairly certain I'm mispronouncing that. But anyway, that's a pretty unique card. I love these unique uncommons. It must be blocked by exactly 1 creature of Fable, and when it attacks, we put X tokens into play tapped and attacking that are copies of it, where X is the number of creatures defending player controls. Remove tokens from the game at end of turn. So, remove from the game is going to mean exile, of course. So, with that, we get all these copies in. It could be very few, it could be hundreds, depending on your opponent. What's important about it is that it's abusable in decks that utilize numbers. So cards like Impact Tremors or Warstorm Surge are going to do great. Stalking Vengeance, if we can get rid of the tokens by sacrificing them to something, let's say Ashnod's Altar, then we can make even more use out of them. Purphoros gets even more use out of them. So a properly timed attack with Nacatl War-Pride can end the game depending on your opponent's board state. And it's just a card that I'm not sure everybody's aware of. So I want to make sure everyone knew about this. The second magic trick to teach your Jund deck is going to be a fairly simple one. We're going to take Grave Pact, or any card like it. There's other cards that do the same thing, but I like Grave Pact. Whenever a creature you control is put into a graveyard from play, each other player sacrifices a creature. Simple. Necrogenesis. Exile target creature card from a graveyard, create a 1/1 green sapperling creature token. And Ashnod's Altar. Sacrifice a creature, add 2 mana to your mana pool. So, this is pretty easy. We need a creature to start this off, and we're going to take any one of ours. We're going to assume that we have a token, say a 1/1 sapperling. We're going to sacrifice it to Ashnod's Altar. We're going to get the effect from Ashnod's Altar of 2 colorless mana, and we're also going to get the effect off of Grave Pact, which makes everybody else sacrifice a creature. We're then going to spend that 2 mana from Ashnod's Altar over on Necrogenesis to exile one of those creatures that your opponent sacrificed. We're hoping that they sacrifice something other than a token. Then we're going to exile that creature from the graveyard and create a 1/1 green sapperling creature token. And then we're going to repeat. We're going to keep doing this until their board state is clear. We're going to sacrifice a sapperling to Ashnod's Altar, getting Grave Pact, spending 2 to make a sapperling, until our opponent's graveyards are empty, and until our opponent's fields are clear. The third and final trick to teach your Jund deck is a little sleazy, not gonna lie. I am not a fan of land destruction. I don't promote it, however I will abuse the hell out of it when I need to. We're gonna start with any enchantment that deals damage to a creature when it enters the battlefield. I personally like to use a card called Aether Flash. Whenever a creature comes into play, Aether Flash will deal 2 damage to that creature. Awesome. That works for our needs. We're then going to look at a black enchantment called Death Pits of Wrath. Whenever any creature is dealt damage, destroy it. It can't be regenerated. So, with just these 2 cards, whenever a creature comes into play, it takes 2 points of damage and then dies. It's destroyed. All except indestructible creatures, of course. We know that. Okay, well that's fine and dandy. It kind of messes with us too, but how do we turn this up a notch? Well, we do that with the red enchantment called Burning Sands. Whenever a creature is put into a graveyard from play, that creature's controller sacrifices a land. Okay, so this is pretty strong, but if your opponent isn't running many creatures, you don't have very many options from here. it's not impacting them, and if you are running a lot of creatures, it's going to impact you pretty heavily. Well, that's where you can hop in and play any of the hunted creatures. For our purposes of green, we're going to look at Hunted Troll. It comes into play. Put 4 1/1 blue fairy creature tokens with flying into play under target opponent's control. So, you drop a Hunted Troll, they get 4 fairies, you're going to lose a land, but they're going to lose 4. And then they're down 4 lands. That's not bad. We can magnify this with a little black enchantment called Tainted Aether. Whenever a creature comes into play, its controller sacrifices a creature or land. So they have 2 options. Sacrifice a creature, in which they're going to sacrifice a land anyway to Burning Sands, or they sacrifice a land, and then their creature dies anyway due to Aether Flash and Death Pits of Wrath, and they're going to lose a land anyway. Consequently, if they don't have any creatures to sacrifice, they have to sacrifice lands. So this makes it very, very scummy, in my opinion. We can even use Cauldron of Souls. We tap it, choose any number of target creatures. Each of those creatures gains persist until end of turn. When it dies, if it had no 1/1 counters on it, return to the battlefield under its owner's control with a 1/1 counter on it. Okay, cool. So how does that impact us? Well, we just target our Hunted Troll, bring it back, and put 4 more tokens into play. So if we did that, we cast Hunted Troll, we persist it, we put 8 fairies into play with all these enchantments in play. Now again, I'm not a fan of land destruction, but this will get the job done. And that is 3 magic tricks to teach your deck, Jund Edition. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. Leave some suggestions for my next color combination next week in the comments below, and I will see you in that video. Bye-bye.